Hey everybody, it's David R. Becker here with my Thursday night paint along that I usually do on YouTube, but tonight we're going to be doing it on Facebook. Only because I do not have enough power to run my streaming software to give you it on YouTube. So we're going to do it on YouTube later on. I'll post it on there. But here's what we're doing tonight. We're doing We're doing trees, palm trees, and we're going to be putting an extra person in there. But we're going to be pretty much showing you a few little tricks on doing palm trees. And again, tonight is a 3-color study. This is our third week in doing this, and so what we're doing is we are doing 3 colors. This week, last week it was 2 colors. Week before that was 1 color, and so we're going to be going ahead and trying 3 colors. And the 3 colors I'll be using today will be ultramarine blue. And I will be using permanent violet, ultramarine blue, permanent violet, and quinacridone gold. So those are the three colors I'll be using this evening. And I also had, for those of you that ever watched my Thursday nights on YouTube, I always have a beer. And tonight I purchased a Peroni from Italy, and actually over on the boat, and this is the only one I had never tried, and so I got the Peroni, and we're going to give it a shot and give it a chance to see what it's like. I have to admit I already had a sip of it. It's pretty darn good. And so I'm going to give this one a 10. It's a very good beer. Peroni is a very good beer, Italian beer, and so that's what we're going to toast with. So cheers everybody, cheers, cheers, cheers. Cheers to a great painting, and hopefully you can hear me and all that. And I think everything's gonna be fine. It's just that I did not have enough power to do this in Facebook, or I mean on YouTube, but Facebook seems to work fine. And so what I want you to do is, if you do have questions, I won't be able to look at them like I normally do, because it's up above my head, and I cannot be watching. I can't look at your questions. And so put them on there, and I will get to them later on after I get done. All right, so let's get started. And so first off, if you want to get any information from me, and usually I have a bunch of slides and stuff, but I don't have any of that stuff, so we're MacGyvering it here. And so this is my black and white study that I normally do, and here's the color version. And so if you look at this, what I want you to see is that your value pattern. And I always, like with the 3 colors we're going to be using, again, don't think so much about the colors, worry more about the values. And so the value pattern for me will be the trees will be dark, and the shadows, and I'm going to put 2 people in here with a little boat. It just feels like it needs something there. You can put rocks there, you can put people there, or even you do like it is. I'm going to make the water just slightly darker, and I'm going to make the sky not as, light with clouds. I'm going to make it more of a tropical setting where it's not so many clouds in there. I like it when it's really nice and blue. So we'll do that, all right? And so there's my lesson for you today. And hopefully, if you're at YouTube, I tried to change everything to make sure that everybody gets here. Hopefully you're all here from Thursday nights. And if you don't have a Facebook, and you don't do Facebook, and later on this week, or maybe even tomorrow, I can get it to Facebook or get it to YouTube, and that way you can watch it on YouTube. So this will be downloaded, and it just takes things a lot slower here because we're in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and so we don't have the greatest Wi-Fi, but good enough for Facebook, it looks like. And so let's get started here, guys. And so we're going to, again, like I said, we're going to be using ultramarine blue. So I'm using my ultramarine blue, which is this right here. So I'll be using that for my sky, and I am not going to wet all of the paper like I normally do, because I want to keep some parts of it. I know this tree is all dark, but there are parts of this tree that are going to be like a green, and so I don't want to go over everything with the blue. I'll get really close to it, but like these right here. Let me just show you real close up to my drawing. And so as you can see, when you're doing palm leaves, as you look at the outer shape and try not to think about each frond, I think that's what we call them, fronds. And so you're going to look at the whole entire like leaf shape, like all together as one. And usually they have a certain shape, and there's a center line through it, and then there's the fronds coming off of that. So look at the big outer shape of that first. And like this one right here, and this one right here are almost like a triangle. You know, kind of like a triangle, and then I'll be putting in the fronds. But these are going to be light. Some of these are going to have a little light in them, and so I'm going to put those in there with like a yellow, like a quinacridone gold, because I can only use yellow. I'm using quinacridone gold, which is a yellow. I'm going to be using a dark blue, which is ultramarine blue, which I will lighten up with the paper by doing a wash down. And I'll be using a violet just to make my yellow and violet kind of orangey, and so that's for the sand and stuff like that. That's what I just thought would be the best. But you decide what kind of colors you want, 3 colors you want. It's pretty much, you can make a lot of colors with 3 colors. You can make all colors if you use primary colors. Now I don't have a red, so I'm not going to be able to, well, I got a violet though, so that has red in it, so that'll be, like if I water it down or white it down with white. And again, you can use white or black, so just remember that. And so let's just get going. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, if you have questions, you can ask them, but I can't see them right in front of me. Not enough Wi-Fi and not enough power to get that. And so I'll be sitting down now for a second, and then I'm going to be wetting the paper. And I'm going to wet the paper as I go along. I'm not going to wet the whole thing because, again, I want to kind of go and make this vibrant blue really kind of vibrant and float it there, and leave some of my light parts of the tree alone. And so I am wetting it with a color, and I call this wetting as you go along. I'm not putting white in my paint because that'll dull it down. That'll make it look a little bit not blue enough. I want to get the intensity of a pure phthalo blue, not phthalo, ultramarine blue. So I'm looking and I'm seeing that, though I do want to kind of stick around this area right here, because right there is where it's going to be a little bit of yellow I'm going to put in there. And I can put a little bit of blue in there, but I want to have little highlights of white and yellow over here. And again, use enough blue so that one thing about ultramarine blue, it granulates really well, which I really love. I mean, if you can granulate your pigment, that's awesome. Let me just look at my camera again, make sure I have everything in focus here and everything into this camera. And so I'll go through this area. I'm going to try to float my pigment and make it really dark up on top. And I would really love to use like a light blue, but again, this is a 3-color study, so I really kind of want you to use 3 colors just to see how far you can push those colors. And I want to see also what colors you choose. You know, it's kind of neat and interesting to see what you choose as the artist. And when we did 2-color last week, boy, some of you did some really neat colors other than what I had done with blue and orange. And so I'm going to go through here. And you notice I'm not putting in these clouds. I just find this scene to be, I wanted to make it really vibrant. I probably could have used like not as dark a blue, you know, because I can add black to this blue. So maybe I should have used more of a lighter blue that was more, you know, that I can get more turquoise into it. But we're just going to make it lighter as we go down here. And I'm not sure why I'm going around this. See right there, I'm leaving a little bit of some of these leaves, I'm leaving white. Just the ones that are light. Most of them are pretty dark, and so I'm just using the ones that are going to stay light a little bit. I'm going to go in there later with the quinacridone gold and put a little gold into it. Now down here, I'm going to wet it all the way through the tree. The trees are going to be darker, and you notice how it's very much a tint, not much pigment. And if I want, I could put clouds down here, and I can actually, like I said, I can use white if I need to lighten something. I'll just use the paper for now, and then use a little bit of the blue and see how much it's granulating. I don't know what it is about phthalo blue, or I mean about ultramarine blue, that makes it so where pigment granulates. I'm not sure why, but it granulates really well. And all the manufacturers that make ultramarine, it's like must be the pigment that all the companies use, because it's pretty interesting and it's pretty neat. So I'm going to kind of make this smooth this out on its own. It's nice and wet, it'll smooth out. I want to be pretty dark up here. I want to be pretty, you know, tropical. And I could, down here, oh boy, I forgot paper towel. Let me go into the bathroom and get some tissue. I'll be right back. Got some tissues, because what I want to do down here is I do want to have a little bit lighter, but it'd be nice to have a little bit of violet, and I said I can use violet here. And if I put a little white into it, I'll make a little bit of lavender. And so I'm putting a little white into the purple to make a lavender, and then I can put little hints of purple down here. And again, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. I can't answer them right while I'm painting, but I can answer them later on. I'll answer them hopefully later on. Tomorrow we'll be in Nassau, and so it'll be kind of interesting to see what I'm going to paint there. I've never been. That's one place I haven't been to ever. It'll be kind of fun to see what they have there. So here I'm going to put little clouds, little violety clouds, more violet back here, and also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of this blue, watered down blue, with a little bit of white. I'll put a little white in the blue down here, only because I want it to be more pastel-like, and so that's fine. I'll make it pastel, that's fine. Another nice thing I don't get by doing it on Facebook here, I can't see the painting in a video, and I kind of find that to be really helpful when I'm doing it on YouTube, because it kind of shows me the big picture, and it's nice to see the big picture. So right now I'm standing up to see the big picture. I'm just going to put a couple little hits of white in there for maybe a cloud or a cloud or two. Just in the bottom here. I could have left white on the paper too. And then for all of you that don't follow me on Thursday nights on YouTube but are here on there, it's kind of a fun Thursday night. We all come together and I just do this, and then I have a Facebook group called BeckerArt group, and then and when you do the painting, we show it up and we talk about it, or we congratulate for making such a beautiful painting, or if you have questions, just ask them there too. For anybody that's new here, because I normally don't do this on Facebook, but this is the only way I could do it today. I thought I tried a couple different ways of trying to do it on YouTube, but just not enough power, and it would be like last week where it just skips like crazy. A lot more than it would like last week. Last week I skipped a little bit, but it would have been really bad this week. So down here I'm going to put a few little mountains way in the distance. I'm using white. I'm using pure white. And only use pure white when you're working wet into wet. Don't do it on dry paper. Then that's gouache. That I consider gouache then. And I'm using it like this, like a wet into wet, and it kind of gives you, it kind of pushes away the pigment, and actually kind of gives you a paper back too. See, I'm just kind of pushing it away, and because it's thicker, I'm putting it on thick into a wet wash, and then I'm getting these little clouds of white. And I use titanium white for anybody who is new here. I use titanium white, and I just go through here. You notice I go through the tree and all that, because the trees are going to be nice and dark, and they're being dark green. Now for the water in the Caribbean and all these, it's usually darker in the distance, and as it comes forward, it gets lighter, which is really strange, because sometimes, like in a lake, it seems to get lighter as it goes back and darker in the foreground. But because the foreground here is, and what I'm going to do is add a little yellow to the blue, and that'll make it kind of turquoise. And that, if I put my brush into purple, let me just wipe this off real quick. Let me get some clear blue, which is ultramarine blue. Mix it in with a little bit of my Cretaceous gold, and that'll give me kind of a green. That's okay, because I want to have a little bit of a turquoise look. And I'm making it lighter up here, go right through the boat and right to the people. And you notice how the blue looks nice and light. A little bit of yellow for the green. And then as I go up, I'm going to add more blue, just pure blue. Pure blue. And again, this is only because we're using 3 colors. Normally, if I was doing this where I'm just using the color I want, then yes, I would be using like a nice, vibrant light blue or turquoise blue. But we can't do that this week. This week we're doing 3 color. And it's a reason for that, and it's because we want you to learn how to use and blend colors together and see what they harmonize. And hopefully you got my newsletter, and I saw that lady, what was her name again? I forget what her name was. But she had really kind of neat combinations and how to get the combinations of good colors that harmonize together. So I'm going right to the people because the people are going to be darker, and I can rub out them too. I can rub out a little bit of light if I need them to be lighter. Back in here is darker, so I'm going to pick up a little bit thicker, darker pigment back here. Far distance, I put a little bit of land back here. Not sure why, I just thought it'd be kind of nice to have like a land back there. And I just get lighter as I come forward. And like I said, a little bit of the Cranacum Gold, which is a yellow, a golden yellow. And that with the blue makes it nice and turquoisey. And I mean, pushing the blue a little bit, you know, it's not as vibrant a blue as some colors, but I just felt it'll make a great green. The ultramarine blue will make a great green with the Cranacum Gold. That's another reason I use it, to make a nice green. I didn't want to use Prussian, that would have been too dark. Peacock was a little bit too red. So you decide what colors you want. Now for the sand down here, I'm going to use just pure Cranacum Gold, maybe with a little violet, depending on, this is the violet I'm using with white, just to brown it up a little bit, because purple and the yellow make a beige, and that'll be the sand color. And so I'm going to use a little more gold. Cranacum Gold is kind of a very interesting color because it looks very dark when it's in the tube or it's laying there on your palette. Mix a little white with it, see what happens when I put a little white and a little bit of purple. It'll brown it up a little bit and dull it down a little bit. It'll dull it down and make it grayer by putting a little purple in there. And that's fine. And I'm just going to wet it down a lot so it's very light, like just a tint of color. And I'm going to, again, a little bit of violet with white, just to tone it down a little bit. And I have to put the white to make it more lavender-like, and that together with the yellow will just give me a nice sand color. I'm hoping. Thanks, Katrina, for putting that up there. Thanks for including Kate Smith info. Yeah, Kate Smith was the name. Thanks, Kathy, for reminding me the name. I forgot her name. I did look up for a second and it has the last two questions, but I can't go any farther than that. Oh, here's some more. Let's see. He's watching. Where to find our group? All right, so I can see a little bit, but I have to stand up, and so I have to stop painting. So we're not going to do that too often, but ask away. So this is just going to be going through. Remember how I go through things. Go through things if you need to make it look, I want it to look very fresh and clean. And I'm not putting in the shadows yet. The shadows will be on some, they're a really big important part. I can put light shadows, like lighter shadows, not really dark ones, to show the trees that are in there. I'll do that later. Right now I still want to get the water a little bit right here. I want to get up to the edge here. And I'm going to put waves in there later too. If you keep it a little white, it'll look like if it's just a wave with no white, like where it's churning, then you can just do a darker version of blue to show the wave. A lot of times we tend to put the white there because it's the wave when it's falling over. And there, I kind of ruined it because I went into a wet surface. Oh well, that's fine. All right, and so now we have to wait for it to dry. Things here, I noticed that on the boat, it takes a real long time to dry. Maybe it's because we're surrounded by water, and so maybe we're going to go in here and take a little bit of this purple and blue and put a little hill back here, a little, maybe there's an island out there. And I'm making it a little bit purpley blue. And you can make whatever you want. I just felt it needed something a little bit more than just when it was there. Actually, there is a little bit of land in the picture too. There is actually a little bit of land down there. So I didn't make it up completely. I just made it bigger, so it's a little bit farther forward. You can actually see it. It's kind of hard to see in the photo. All right, so there's my lights. That's all my lights. All my lights are done. And even these are done. I'm gonna put a little bit of this gold in there. Let's put a little bit of this chromaticum gold. Let's just cover that up a little bit, the white with the gold, because it's very green, and so that mixed with the blue will make a nice green. It's a light green, a yellowish green, a lime green. And so if I add yellow right here now, and then when I put a little bit of blue on top of it, hopefully it'll turn nice and light green. So now we're in our big mediums and darks, and since I don't have any big washes of that, basically what I have are the fronds, and so they're kind of detailed. So I'm going to do the big trunks first. I'm going to get in there and do the trunks because they're a nice dark wash, and I'm going to try to get them done. And I'm going to use a little bit of chromaticum gold, a little bit of purple. That'll give me a brown, and they're kind of brownish. And if I make them a little bit thicker than normal, and since it's still wet, as I'm going down, I don't like to go really fast and straight because then the tree looks too perfect. It's like it's a telephone pole where they grind off make it really round. But these have a little bit of knots here and there, not knots, rings basically when they grow. And just check what kind of palm it is, because sometimes they have like little X's in them. It's basically where the fronds come out of. And these kind of go in, the ones I was looking at, they kind of go with a line across it, back and forth like that. I gotta stop to go into other colors. I always try to just put 2-3 colors out instead of using your palette, because I tend to try to go into other ones thinking that okay, it's okay, but it shouldn't be. Just try to do it. Try to do it with the 2 colors or 3 colors that you said that you're gonna do it with. Here, put a little blue on the shadow side. So where's the shadow side? The shadow side is, well, it comes from straight above. It looks like, yeah, it's like coming from straight above. So the bottom side here, where it's leaning into, that'll be the darker side. And so I'm gonna put a little bit of the lines through here. And once it's wet, I tend to use other colors. And if it was like more colors, I would put orange, all kinds of colors in there. But again, since we're only using 3, you can put a little bit of the dark blue here on the side. And then I'll push these little lines. I'll do them while it's a little wet. I'll take a little chromaticum gold. And gold with white, let's see what happens. I'm not sure what happens when I mix gold with white. Kind of makes like a yellow, and that's kind of a nice color. So we'll go in there, put a little bit of that in there, drop it into wetness. And we're gonna go down here and do it again, get a little bit darker, so a little bit more violet. That together with the yellow will make a nice brown. And they're kind of brownish, these trees. And they're in shadow, so I kind of like how they look like they're reflecting. Also, if it's really reflecting the ground, it can reflect a little bit of this color into it on one edge. And then a little bit darker on the other side. And even a little bit of blue will reflect in there. And that's all wet in the wet. Make sure you do wet in the wet. And then this is all roots of the plant. They're just like they're washed out, and so like little worms down there. It's very interesting how they look. And it's amazing that they hold up, how high and thin they are, and they're holding up all those fronds, and they're not even connected to the ground very far, or very deep. So a little ultramarine blue now I stick in there, and it'll make it kind of greenish because it is gold, and that's okay. You know, it's fine. And I'm gonna worry about the detail later when I get that, and I'll get in there with the very fine details. I haven't used any black. You could if you want. Again, black and white are to make it light or dark. And it kind of helps you too to understand how to use white and black. And yeah, I'll put little lines in there later. Right now it's nice and wet. I'm just gonna, and this tree right here starts out really, really dark. And so I'm gonna take it dark as I can. I'm gonna take the permanent violet and mix it with the blue, And if I want to tone it down, put a little bit of the gold in there and just make this really dark. I'm just going to bring this up. Now use a little bit more water. And just to let you know, tonight would have been a night he had surf and turf at the dinner table. Tonight's a dress-up night, and so I could be eating surf and turf, but I'm really important that I have my class, so that's what I'm missing. But I'd rather do this. And I really don't need much more food in me. I've got so much. I must have gained I don't know how many pounds already with all the food that you get on these ships. It's terrible. It's like I say I'm not going to do it, but it's sit there right in front of you. So maybe I should say thank you for making me not go to surf and turf. We had lobster and steak tonight in the main cosmopolitan dining room. Oops, I just gotta go with the one blue. Stop going to other blues. All right, now let's get our darks in here, our big darks, and there's gonna be let me just see if this is dry by holding it sideways. I can kind of tell. That's dry enough, yeah. Yeah, you get granulation with blue, and that's one thing you got to watch out for, because if you want it to be really smooth, then don't use ultramarine blue, because ultramarine blue is not a smooth, it granulates. Pretty interesting how they granulates. Oh, let's keep on going with down here first and let that dry even more. Let's get this in here, a nice grain. Let's get this nice and yellow golden color. Cornacridone gold is very transparent. It's so transparent, and I find I'm getting so used to using colors that are not so transparent that when I get into there, I don't realize how much it doesn't have. It's pigment, but it's so thin. It's so transparent. It's very interesting. I'm just not used to that. I have a lot of colors that have white in them, and so it tends to kind of make me think separately how much pigment I should use. And let's get this really dark color again on the side here, like underneath here. Later on I'll show you the difference for the roots system kind of thing. You kind of see the roots a little bit in these trees. And there is no, I was thinking there may be some plant life over here, but there isn't, so I'm going to keep it at that. And then when this is dry, that's when I'll put in my beautiful shadows on the land right there. Now, since it's so dark up there, I really can't see my fronds that I drew in, so I'm going to have to make them up a little bit. And so what I'm going to mix is my dark blue, cornacridone gold. I'm going to get a really dark green, so just these two right now for now. So blue and cornacridone gold will make a nice green, dark green. And if I want to make it a little bit lighter, there's no way of doing that. It's just use it thinner. Basically, I don't have to use like the thin. See, if I use it thinner, then I get a light green. Let's go with the light green first. And I'm just going to flick my rigger brush, and I'm just going to kind of flick it to get the shape of it. And these are the lighter ones, and so I'm going to start with the lighter fronds first. And those are the ones, like I said, are right here. So I'm going to get some of those in first. And the darker ones will be more where I have them set like to where they all come together as like one big wash. Because you don't have to do every single frond in here to be separate. Otherwise, you'd be spending a long time there. Like for the dark ones, you'll go in and just do a big area and not have to worry so much about trying to make sure you get every single frond in there. Like the ones that are on the outer edge here, those you do want to kind of like just kind of do the edges. And I like the rigger brush for that. And draw them out if you have to. Draw them out with a pencil if you have to. You have to make them look good because it's all about this tree. And if you don't have it looking right where the fronds are going, don't just randomly put them in just anywhere you want. They have a certain anatomy to them. And it would always bug me when students would do that. It would just like go really quickly. Unless, I mean, you have a really loose style. And then if you do, you shouldn't be doing every individual frond anyways. You should be doing like just you could take like an ugly brush, I have my buggy brush over there where it's like a bristle brush and you just kind of wisp it like that. That's fine then if it's that loose, but then put them together. You know, you shouldn't be able to see every single frond then. If it's loose, it should be just like a big area, almost kind of like how Andy Evenson, how he does his palms. I just saw he just posted this today, palm tree that he did, and you can tell they're just very radically big areas and nice, and worrying about the big lights and darks, and that's what's important. Remember showing you the picture of light and dark. That's what you want to get. You want to show that difference between the lights and the darks. Oops, it's a little bit too much there. It gets really dark right here, and so I'm going to put a lot of really dark color right there. Right here it gets really dark, and so I'm just going to let that float, and I'm going to let that be dark like it is, but kind of push it together so it's not all just a bunch of little lines. I like floating pigment, and I like when they kind of, I mean, there are a lot of lines in this, but if you can simplify it a little bit, that's a good thing. So it kind of goes up. And a lot of times I put that line that goes down the middle first. Now this area is a little bit more of the, again, the orange or the yellow gold. And actually a couple of them are like, I'll make it yellow gold right there, make it almost leave it light, like you'd see the sky reflecting in it. That's how shiny the leaves are. And so I'm gonna put that a little bit yellow, and then go back into my bluish green. I'm really dying to see what kind of colors you guys used for this, if you can find a better color than I did. A lot of times you guys may find better colors. I'm just really quickly did this evening after worrying about not being able to do this thing. I started panicking. So I'm like, how am I going to get this going? How am I going to get this going? So I wasn't even thinking about the color until last minute. And I just mixed a few things on my palette to see. So this is just what it came up in last minute. But if you can come up with something that you think is better for this, I would love to see it. So post it on my Facebook group, and we'll love to see it. Let's see how I've got the lights. Now when I put my darks in, it's going to make my lights look lighter. Now this one right back here is a lot. It's like the whole shape is like a leaf, like a whole big leaf, and so I'm going to do the outer edge first with the brush going back and forth, and I'm going to fill this in just with water. And you can also float pigment inside the middle here, and because you don't need, again, to show every single frond, but it's nice to show the outer edge of them. Like inside this here, you can let that float together, but the outer edge needs to have the fronds. Back over here where it's all dark, you'll see I'm going to put a big wash in there with a bigger brush. Now there's ones up here that are coming just straight down, and those are really dark. And oops, I keep on going into the other one. Yeah, stop doing that. So we're going to go into here now and also if you want to use white opaquely and put it on there with a little bit of the yellow, then that's fine too. I don't mind. Give it a shot. If you didn't get it quite light enough at first, like this has got pretty blue, and so if I need to have a light fronds in there, then just put them in. These go all the way down. So I'm constantly dipping into my green here that I already got. Gosh, stop going into that one. I gotta rinse that out. Only ultramarine. It's funny how when you're so used to doing something, you just go into there automatically. Nice and dark here, because I'm almost just using pure dark blue with a little bit of the quinacridone gold to make it green. But there's so much blue in there. All right, now let's get these over here. This one comes out dark on the edges here. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the value one, the value pattern, where it's black and white, where I make everything black and white. Because that shows me a little bit better off what the value is of each individual leaf. And kind of breaks it up a little bit. And always one right after another. And it's taken me a little bit longer than I anticipated, because I am taking, I mean, there's not much more to this painting. And so when you're doing these, figure out what's more important. I mean, they got the big lights and darks already, so that's done. So these are the most important things, and the shadow and then the people, and we're done. So it's pretty quickly done if you think about it, because there's not much to do on this thing. Here I'm going to negative paint a little bit I'm trying to do the fronds negative painted. If you can't do negative, just take white paint and put it in with the chromatic gold and get your negative painted that way, or your positive painting. So I'm going to go in here. Here's another. That goes in front. This is actually in front, so I'm just going to let this go right and fall in front of it. See, I go one after another, right in this, and same way. And then here on this side, and learn how to make brush strokes like this. Don't do it on the painting. Do it on a scrap sheet of paper if you don't feel you can do that. And see if you can do it first. Now I'm gonna use a little bit of violet with this blue and green, and watch how dark this is gonna get. This is almost get like black, and that's fine because some of these are really dark. And there's a couple little dark tweaks up here, and so I'm going to put a couple of those in there. And then I'm going to put shadows onto the tree with a nice dark, like the fronds are going around, little shadows there. Then we're going to go over here and do this dark area, and I'm going to go back to my big brush. I mean, that was my rigger the whole time. Holy smokes! Can't believe I used my rigger for that. And this brush, the 16 round, is just as good as that rigger. When it's new, they're so pointy. Oops! Stop going in that picture to that paint. All right, and so we want these to be a little bit greener. So I'm going to use a little bit of green, ultramarine blue. It is dark, and so what I'm going to do is, okay, the guy comes right here. So I'm doing the outer edge of this tree. I'm doing the outer edge of the fronds, and so it's like negative painting it. So I'm going back into it, and then this is just going to be wisped a little bit, to, again, going into the negative part of it. Then all these down here are kind of dark, and I'm not going to worry so much about getting each individual frond as where it's the background, so I'm going to just flick away and wet it and let some of the pigment float. And here I'm kind of wisping to make it look, let's get a little more yellow in there. And this brush is just as pointy as the rigger, and so if you just barely touch it, you should be able to get the same thing with a lot of little lines. But then I want water to let it be soft edge in some spots, so not everything is, photographic. And I like to have some watercolor techniques. A look of watercolor technique, which is floating. It's a really neat technique in watercolor, and so I can put a little bit of blue in there and just let it float together on its own, and just make it see it soft edged, and that makes it look like it's in the background when it's soft edged. Lost edges is what we need sometimes. Lost edges. Make this a little bit lighter so it doesn't have to. And I'm doing it on dry so I can get the look of fronds without having to actually draw each individual one, because my brush can separate then, and I can get the and it's not going to blend together because it's not that wet yet. Now when I put water in there, it'll be wet, and then I'll be able to let things float. And then you can put, oh gosh, stop going in there. So used to going into the Prussian blue. Now I'm going to put a little purple in here, nice and dark, and kind of outline this frond right here. See how that goes into the back distance, and these ones that are coming down here, those are nice in front, so those are okay to put right in front. I should have made them a little bit more exact because they are in the front and they're in front of this part. And I didn't get them as green as if I would have used a really light green. If I had a yellow with white, then I could have made it more of a lime green, which I can't really quite seem to make, because the chromatic gold is a gold, but it doesn't seem to, it's not yellow. Let's see if I mix a little blue with it. It just turns it like a blah green, which is okay. Like that's okay. That's okay too. Let's see. This side of is light, and then this side is a little bit darker. of this wispiness. So take your time. Take your time. You don't need to rush this. It's not that much to paint, and so don't rush through it just to get it done. Make your palms look good. It's all about these palms. There's not much more here into this picture. And so I'm gonna make a couple little. This is a little bit of light. I used white and the yellow here, so this is a little bit on top here, a little bit into a wet wash. Remember, I said you can only use white when you put it into a wet wash where it's floating. I want it to float and give it that soft edge. You don't want to have you're not doing gouache. Unless you want to, then go ahead and just use it because you want. Here I left a little bit of blue out, and so I just noticed there's some blue down here, or light through here. So I'm just going to take my towel and rub that out and put some blue back in there, because I didn't realize that some of this is actually the sky behind it. So I'm going to take a little white and blue and put blue back in there. All right, let's go move on. There's my fronds pretty much. I don't have my detail yet. That's going to come with a few really sharp like stems and stuff and branches, and so we'll do that later. Now let's get into our boat here. Actually, no, let's go into our shadow first. And I know a lot of people would be scared to put the shadow in. And let me toast you guys one more time for this number 10 beer. Cheers, can you see this? Cheers, guys. Somebody says, feels like you are on the cruise with you. Oh, that's awesome. I wish you were. And, let's push it up a little bit. You can see it again. Oh, wait, you can see that. Okay. Let's put this down just slightly. And now let's do our, so what color did I use? I used the same color I used here before, and that was the Crenecum Gold, with a little bit of violet in it. And so I made my violet, remember I made my violet out of white. I made a lavender, so I took my permanent violet, I put a little white in there, making it a little bit more purpley white, and so it's more of a lavender. It's actually more of like a lilac. It's more of a red, seems to be. And then a little Crenecum Gold in there. Those two colors together kind of, it browns it up a little bit. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it just slightly darker, and there's some, you can put some blue in it afterwards, but right now I just have to get the color of the shadow it's on. And basically I got to use the same color that I used before, and then make big areas first. Don't tend to make the fronds first, like get all the fronds in there. Get the big shadow in there first, because too many of the fronds make it look like it's actually not laying flat. And then I can put other colors into that, like I can throw the violet and white into it, maybe a little blue and white, a little light blue. Put a little bit of the light blue into the wash while it's wet, and then you'll have a little bit of the blue wet sand and the shadowed sand. Always do that while it's wet. I can't tell you that enough. That do things when it's wet, so it floats. It's the best look that you can get in watercolor, is when it floats. And here, the same thing with the people. I'm putting it to the right of them. You can follow the sketch exactly, and I can put a little bit of edging on there. But it's got to be really light. It's got to be really light. It can't be too dark. And I start out with the color, like I said, you start out with the color that's on there first, and then you can put a little bit of the other color, like the blue sky, into that while it's wet. Now the boat will have a little bit there. The boat's gonna be dark, and I'll put a little reflection into the water too. The sand here, I'm gonna put a little line here for the edge of the water, like it's a little shadow. I'll put some shadows back here. It's best to look at this in the camera too, so let's see in the camera. How come that thing won't go away? Okay. Next, it could be a little bit darker because it's going to dry darker, so I can make it slightly darker. Well, do it while it's wet too, so that it floats. Again, I can put a little bit of white and light blue in there. I can float it afterwards. Float it in there so it's nice and wet. I'll give it a little bit of a wetness to it, because when sand is wet and in the shadow, you can see reflections of the sky in the sand, and the green of the trees too. They reflect into the shadow. It's called reflected. What is it called? Yeah, reflected shadows. Okay, man. Wait a second. Oh my gosh. Somebody tell me what I'm thinking about. Reflective color. Yeah, it's like if you had an orange sitting next to something, it would throw a little bit of the orange into the scene, even though this may not be blue down here, but because there's so much blue in the sky, it's reflecting in there. So reflective color, that's what it's called. So now with the boat, I'm gonna make the boat. Oh, I only have a thing. I should make it a different color. No, you cannot. I'm gonna make it a purple with white. That has a little bit of. And so I'm gonna start out and make it hard edged. It's dry here, so I'm just gonna go in here. It's gonna be in the shadow, so I just want it to be dark. And I don't have any turquoise. I can't make turquoise with what I have, so it's tough luck. And so I just gotta make it dark. And I don't want to cheat, because I don't want you guys to cheat. I want you to just do the 3 colors. Though if you really feel like it and you just cannot stand away from it, then go ahead, use it. Nobody's gonna holler. And so we're gonna go in here and put a little reflections in the water. These are reflections, not shadows. These are reflections of the boat reflected into the water. And I did find out, somebody had asked me about, I saw an artist, and when I get back home, I'm going to post his, he did great waves, and I'm going to post his site. I forgot again what his name was, but I found it, and so I'll be telling you who that person was. Now for the flesh tone, I just got to use the yellow by itself, because again, I don't have any red. I'm just using the yellow, and they look like they have a good tan. And actually, I'm just doing his arms. That way he can have a light shirt on. Where'd she get her arms? What's her arms doing? Oh, she's got her arms on her hips. This is maybe a little more of a kayak. So I'm making a little more of a kayak. And he's got a kayak paddle in his hand. And here I'll put his legs going down and her legs. And he's got shorts on. And they would also be pretty dark, and the fact that if the light is above, it's amazing. I studied this last year on how to do shadowing on people, and what you do is you put the right on their shoulder, you make it light, and also the top of their head. Usually you make it nice light, unless he's got a hat. Then you can still put a little light on the very tip of his hat. The only thing that hits when you're on top is the top parts of things. The top of their shoulders and top of their heads. So his arm right here. He's got long hair. So I made it a little bit darker, and maybe I'll make his top even darker yet with like some more blue. And her hair is real dark. I'll make the paddle really dark. And that's detail. I mean, we got the detail stage, and you can also put, let's say the sand was wet or something, you could also, oh, I'll just drop some water in there. You could also take that yellow and just kind of bring it straight down like this into the sand. That would make it look like it's reflected into the water. Not so much a shadow, but a reflection. Same thing with the paddle. And now we're at super detail stage, so I'm going to go back into the trees, and I'm going to shadow them on one side and put little lines here and there to show the way that the tree has lines in it, basically. It's almost like a birch, like we do with the birch, but there's a lot of lines. And also shadows, you can throw shadows. Now don't put them past the tree, like it looks like it has thorns. That's not what you want. Here I'm going to put some shadows coming across, and they would be like fronds and like a bunch of lines. You can darken the one side a little bit more with a hard edge. And this is detail. This is fine detail. A bunch of lines going around on the side edges. I'm going to go back in and do my really detailed dark fronds in there, and then we're going to get some really darks on this guy. Maybe she's got black hair, so I'm going to take lavender and blue and make it really dark. And just give a nice contrast over here. The dark hair. Her trunk is dark. Her bathing suit. Maybe the shadow is a little bit darker on the one side here. Maybe the boat should be a little bit darker too. Maybe a little bit of darkness in the boat in the bottom. I really miss using turquoise in a scene like this because it really, you know, if you want to use turquoise for your blue, that would be great. I didn't have any turquoise here. Oh, I did, but yeah, maybe you should use turquoise. Have a turquoise sky. All right, let me just do one more thing, and that is going to be these fronds in there where I'm going to make them really, really dark, almost black light. And so I'm going to take purple and dark blue and all three colors together, mix them together, and that'll make your darkest dark, right? So purple, dark blue, and the yellow. If you mix those all three together, you're going to get almost like a black. It's really nice and dark. And then I'm going to go in and just get all my little details of dark in here, like right here. I see there's a bunch that's really dark. And then bring them up here a little bit. And notice now I'm putting them pretty detailed as they actually, you know, I'm doing it every individual one, which is fine. I mean, you get some of them like that. It just makes it look more realistic in some parts. And so then it looks like behind and in front, you get another dimension. Look at the nice, remember Wet in the Wet and how that softened up right there and lost some edges? I love that. I love losing edges. Not every edge has to be shown, you know, it's nice to lose some edges. And now I'm just getting my really darkest darks, and there's some darks in this, and these little lines that go and show that each frond goes up like a main branch. And put that in there. And it's kind of more of a purple because I'm using a lot more purple than blue. And then a little bit of the yellow, the gold makes it look really dark and not even so much green. There's also a little bit dark through here. I may even put some light ones back in too. I didn't like what I just did there. That doesn't look so good. I'm just putting up here because what happened was I got so dark with this blue in the sky that these don't look very dark, and so I've got to make them a little bit darker than they actually are. Get a little bit more bluish green in here instead of the purple. I'll leave the purple out this time. I'll try to get a little more green, dark green. Wisp it there. I like that lost edge. I don't want to do too much there. I love that lost edge there. Something about lost edges that are really cool. I just really love lost edges. And that's done by Wet in the Wet. It's just something that not many artists, watercolors do that, lose their edges. But Mary White, my favorite, she does a great job of losing edges. All right, guys, I think that's getting pretty close. The shape of this, I don't like being round like that, but there's nothing I can do about that now. Don't make it rounded like that. Make it more like it is in the picture, where it goes down really far down here and it goes back up again. So you have a little bit more sky in this area. Let me just rub this out a little bit here. It seems a little bit like I lost my blue sky up here. So I'm just going to rub it out a little bit with my brush here and put light blue and ultramarine blue back in here with white and ultramarine blue. Get that back in there. So again, if you have questions, sorry I couldn't answer them and see them this week, but at least we got it going and we had it done. And then I can always answer those questions later. And I will, like I said, I will put this on YouTube, but just probably tomorrow. The internet connection is very slow to download stuff, and so I'll do that tomorrow, and we'll get that on there. So those of you that don't have Facebook or don't like doing Facebook, and there are some of you that are like that, and that's fine. Just the only thing I could do to make it happen today was go on Facebook. Okay, a few more darks in here, and then we call it quits. It's nice and wet now, and so I can get some lost edges again. And then there's one coming back in this direction. Be really dark blue. Just one coming back in there. And then I'm going to look at it from a distance, because you always look at it from a distance, and I like looking at it through the camera, because it's kind of like looking at it from a distance. When you're sitting to something too close for too long, you can't tell what's right or wrong because you're too close to it. So you have to get away from it or look at it and my little camera here, and I can see right now that these are way too bright. See, by just looking up, I've seen that these are just a little bit too bright, so I'm going to tone them down a little bit on one side. Let's see if we have any questions, guys. How come this one's not going away? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay with going away from the surf and turf. I really don't need to have surf and turf tonight. Okay. All right, so let me look again. And so the only thing left here is just a little bit darker too. Put a little bit of green right there. And then we'll take the tape off. See, when I look at it close, I couldn't tell that these were way too bright. Way too bright. And now, though, they fit right in there, just like they are in the picture. Though this right here is really dark. It kind of comes off like that. And then I'll put a nice dark line right there. And what happens with that branch there? Kind of comes down. And then you get some white and orange yet. Hold on, let me see what happens when I use white and the quinacridone gold. See what I get. And then I'm just going to put a few lines of that into the fronds, because I don't have any of those. And there are some of those in the picture where it's really light fronds that are going through here. And it sits over and sits down again. I don't even know what time it is. Are we going over? Oh, that'd be perfect. A couple more minutes and we're done. And let's get a few. Let's see. This one, a couple. See, I'm making a few that are light, and opposed to the opposite ones that are all dark. It just makes it look. It's nice to have here and there a few of the really light fronds, and then you could do it like with masking fluid, but it's just so much easier doing it this way. Just get it done. Come over here. I don't want to overdo this with all this now. A couple more in this losing edges part. Alright guys, that's about it. Let me take the tape off and we're done. You could also spatter the beach and make it look more pebbly. I like to just keep it loose and clean. And definitely let me see your colors. Let me see your color scheme. Love to see it. Today, we had a really neat butterfly one come in today, which I love the colors they used. I'm going to see what they used and maybe use it on something else because they look really cool. So let me put this away. A little table here in my little cabin. So it's very thin, and so let's see if you can see it there. So there you have it, guys. I'm glad I could still do it, even though there's some people probably yelling at me right now thinking, where the hell am I? But we'll put it up there on Facebook, or on YouTube tomorrow. And thanks so much for watching, guys. And we'll see you in a week. And next week it is full color. So we're back to full color next week. And I have no idea what we're going to be painting. But we'll see you then. Until then, with my Peroni, cheers, guys. Where's the label? There it is. So cheers, cheers, cheers. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.